Namaste, hello and welcome back to another video on Hamsavahini Vajraasthra. I'm Awhona. Today's video is going to be a very special video because I'm here to announce the Global Nurses Month 2022, which is going to be a read-along which will be happening all along May. Now, what makes this read-along very special is because it's an own voices read-along, and as you guessed from the title, it's all about nurses and the first-hand experiences which nurses do have, and the challenges that they face and the contributions which they make, and the experiences and the fun that they have while taking care of patients and taking care of our health. And also this is going to be, of course, an own voices read along, and this year I'll be hosting this with Kirby from Kirby the Bookish Nurse and Janelle from Two Founded Books. I'll post a link to the announcement videos in the description box below, and I'll also try and leave them in the overhead cards above for all of you to cross-check. Now, we do also have a few fun-filled sections as well, and so do please join me further in this video. So now let's get on with the read-along details. Now, this is an own voices read-along, and all you need to do to participate is read any two own voices books which we have selected. So we three hosts have selected 7 books, and amongst those 7 books which we will be sharing with you, you can select any 2. So it is not necessary that there are teams. You can select one book from any of us hosts and read it, and this is the only requirement, is that you read any 2 own voices books. Besides this, there are other challenges as well which you can opt for, but they are absolutely optional. One of them is to read a fiction or a non-fiction which is inspired by a true nurse's story, which may or may not be written by a nurse. So for example, you can read a book which is a memoir which has been written by a nurse, or you could read a book which is a fictional book which is based upon or inspired by a true life story of a nurse, which is written by an author, maybe a journalist, maybe a reporter, etc. So that is absolutely optional, but we as hosts are reading one book each from that section. And there is a third section which is a fun-filled section wherein you could read fiction which is based on nurses. So we do have a list of recommendations which I'll be linking in the description box below, so you can pick and choose, and these are just recommendations, but in case if you do have more books on your mind, or if you do have books which are available in your library or any other available sources, you definitely can pick and choose. There is also another section which is purely optional, of course, and it's a fun-filled section wherein you watch a series or a movie which is entirely based or inspired by nurses. So these are the only few options as well as requirements which are present for this read-along's participation. So now let me share the books that I will be reading for the own voices section. So now let me share the books that I'm reading for the Own Voices section. So I am reading in total 3 books, and the first book that I have chosen to read is called The Courage to Care by Christy Watson, and this is a really wonderfully written book. And from the back it reads as, when we feel most alone, nurses remind us that we are not alone at all. A teen with stab wounds is treated by the critical care team. His school nurse visits and he drops the bravado. A pregnant woman loses frightening amounts of blood following a car accident. It is a military nurse who synchronizes the emergency department into immaculate order and focus. Watson discovers that time and again it is patients and their families, including her own, who show exceptional strength in the most challenging times. As we share in each other's suffering, she shows us how we can find courage too, the courage to care. So now the next book that I will be reading is called Saving Lives, Why the Media's Portrayal of Nursing Puts Us All at Risk by Sandy Summers and Harry Jacob Summers. So from the back of the book, it reads as, for millions of people worldwide, nurses are the difference between life and death, self-sufficiency and dependency, hope and despair. But a lack of understanding of what nurses really do, one perpetuated by popular media's portrayal of nurses as simplistic archetypes, has devalued the profession and contributed to a global shortage that constitutes a public health crisis. Today, the thin rank of the nursing workforce contribute to countless preventable deaths. Saving Lives highlights the essential role nurses play in contemporary healthcare and how this role is marginalized by contemporary culture. Through engaging prose and examples drawn from television, advertising, and news coverage, the authors detail the media's role in reinforcing stereotypes that fuel the nurse shortage and devalue a highly educated sector of the contemporary workforce. Perhaps most important, the authors provide a wealth of ideas to help reinvigorate the nursing field and correct this imbalance. Now, the next Own Voices book that I will be reading is called COVID-19 Frontliners Against All Odds by Dan Gustafsson, followed by 5 other authors. And I understand that nobody wants to hear about the pandemic anymore because we have all struggled through it. But then this is something which I always wanted to read because it was a first-hand experience of 9 nurses which were all put together. So from the back of the book, it reads as, this book holds the stories of 9 nurses from across the United States who volunteered to work in New York City hospitals during the peak of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. These nurses left their ordinary lives behind to fly on empty planes to a city overwhelmed by plague. Thrust onto the coronavirus wards, they saw and did incredible things. Faced with adversity, they put patients' life before their own, working tirelessly day after day in unimaginable conditions. These first-hand accounts provide a powerful look at what it was really like on the front lines of healthcare during a global pandemic. The stories these nurses have are crucial to share with the world. So I did find this very interesting, and that's the next book that I'll be reading. Now, the next section of this read along is a purely optional section, and in this section we read any fiction or non-fiction which is written by a nurse or written by anybody besides a nurse, like a reporter or a journalist or maybe an author, but the only criteria is that it should be a story which is inspired by the true life history of a nurse or the contributions which have been made by a nurse. So for this I have picked up a pretty ambitious book which is called Fatal Decision, Edith Cavell, World War I Nurse, which has been written by Terry Arthur. Now, Terry Arthur is a nurse herself, and this is a historical fiction novel, and from the back of the book it reads as, an inspiring story everyone should know and will never forget. Based on historical fact, this captivating novel tells the story of the legendary Edith Cavell, a British nurse whose duties as a healer clashed with the demands of a ruthless occupying regime during World War I. At the request of a brilliant, hot-headed surgeon, Edith went from London to Brussels to create Belgium's first school of nursing. At the height of her success, the German army marched into neutral Belgium and took over her hospital and school. Knowing the dangers of working against the repressive and brutal control of the German occupiers, Edith joined the resistance movement. Her life was then plunged into the dangerous and clandestine world of the Belgian underground, where she became a key link in the rescuing of Allied soldiers separated from their units. For 9 months, this quiet religious nurse went about saving over 1,000 soldiers under the very noses of the German command. What happened next is both shocking and suspenseful. It caused worldwide outrage, shaped American public attitudes of the war, and brought the German government to its demise. Patriotism is not enough, is what Edith Cavell always used to say. So I call it an ambitious read because it's a pretty thick book, but I hope I'll be able to get through it in May. And that will be the book which I will be reading for the section for a novel which is inspired by the true life of a nurse. Now, the next optional section for this particular read-along is a section where we can read fiction books which are based on nurses, of course. So for this, I have chosen this year to try and complete the first 4 in the series of the Cherry and Student Nurse series, and I just have acquired 2 of them, the first and the fourth. I am still waiting for the other 2 in the middle, which is the second and the third, and I plan on reading this series, but there are a few other books that I have on my TBR list as well, which are also super exciting, but I've not really thought about them, so I will be thinking about them in the month of May as and when I finish these books. But Cherry Ames is one series which is a very old series. It was probably published during 1944, and it does talk about Cherry, who is a student nurse who gets recruited, and US is at war at that point of time, and what experiences she has and how she solves mysteries which she finds within the work environment which she faces. So it's pretty interesting, and I will probably be getting to this. So those are the few books that I'll be reading, and do let me know if you would like to participate in this read along, and if you did find this interesting, what books you would like to read, and do let me know all about that in the comment section below. And also do not forget that we do have all the discussions for this particular read along happening in the Discord server. I will leave a link to the Discord server in the description box below for all of you to click and cross check. So that's all I have for today, and do let me know your views and opinions, and if you are joining us in the comment section below. And with that, we'll be coming to the end of this video, so I'll be back with another video next week. So till then, take care, have a good reading week ahead, and namaste.